Hey everybody, Steve's Retro Rewind here with my review of Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. I was able to go to the theater this past weekend, this past Friday night, December 5th, and I was able to catch Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair. Didn't get to see it in 70 millimeter or 35 millimeter. Some theaters were showing it in that presentation, that aspect. But I did catch it in digital, which was fine. It was great seeing Kill Bill in its entirety in the theater with having that experience. Wasn't a packed theater, but there were several people. I think the theater screening I was at, it was a 7 o'clock on a Friday night. Probably about 25 people there. Given the audience reaction of during some of the parts of the movie, it looked like it may have been their first time seeing the movie, so that was entertaining. Went and saw the 7 o'clock showing of Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair. And for those of you not familiar, of course, Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair is a re-editing or the original vision of Kill Bill. Tarantino initially wanted to do that. Is Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2 in one complete 4.5-hour saga. Now, I went and saw the 7 o'clock showing on a Friday night. The movie actually didn't start till about 7:03, and it was an AMC, so we have the Coca-Cola commercial. We have Nicole Kidman coming out and telling us how much she loves movies. And there were several trailers for upcoming releases. So the movie itself didn't start till about 7:27. So we have the movie. It starts as basically Volume 1. There was an intermission that began about 9:18. It was a 15-minute intermission right on the dot. The movie picks back up at 9:33 and continues on with what in essence is Volume 2. And the movie ended at the end of the credits was about 11:52 p.m. And then it had already surfaced online, but I made a point not to watch it because I knew it was going to be at the end of the credits. We have the continuation or the lost chapter, if you will, Yuki's Revenge, Fortnite Kill Bill collaboration with Fortnite, which tells a little bit of a missing chapter of Gogo Yubari's twin sister Yuki going after the bride. It takes place, if you were to include it in the movie, around the time right after Beatrix goes after and engages and ultimately kills Vernita Green while they're in Pasadena, California. Now, the movie itself, there were some differences. Obviously, this was recut or edited into be one complete narrative story. It wasn't separated into two movies, as Tarantino had done upon initial release. Of course, Tarantino had to add beginning and ending credits. There had to be a little bit of a cutoff and a little bit of introduction with Volume 1 and Volume 2, respectively. But with The Whole Bloody Affair, the movie kicks off as normal as Volume 1 would. There's a little bit of a different dedication. Instead of the revenge is a dish best served cold Klingon proverb, there's a dedication to a director or a filmmaker, I believe. And then we kick off into Volume 1 as we know it. So with Volume 1, there is an extended Oren Ishii origin story, the animated part in the movie. And this is a little bit twofold. The original Oren Ishii story that we see in Volume 1 is somewhat extended in that there's a little bit of extra dialogue and a little bit of extra gore in that story. And then there's about a 7.5 additional or extended part of that scene embedded into the overall animated sequence that tells of one of the characters introduced into that original animated sequence from Volume 1 that I, along with several other people, surmise or inferred may have been even Bill. ended up being a character, Pretty Ricky, I believe is what he was called. So this extended animated sequence goes on and tells of how Oren confronts him before going on, and the bride telling the story how she continued to age and became a world-class assassin, one of the deadliest assassins, and how she eventually joined the Deadly Viper assassination squad. Not that storyline was bad or that extended sequence was bad. And not that I dislike anime or animated sequences. I'm not a huge fan of it. But this particular sequence, that extended sequence, the animation was done a little bit differently than the original animation. and I just wasn't feeling it. If it had been left out of the movie, I would have been just as happy. But not only is there some additional gore and dialogue in the existing scene, but you do have that extended about 7.5-minute scene inserted into that anime scene. Moving on, of course, we have the House of Blue Leaves, where the bride confronts Oren Ishii, Gogo Yubari, and Johnny Mo and the Crazy 88. This sequence in the original Volume 1 switched to black and white during a particular part in the fight scene. Tarantino had done that as a workaround to keep the carnage in the movie, but avoid an NC-17 rating. So in The Whole Bloody Affair, that whole sequence, instead of being in black and white, is now in color. In addition to it being in color, there is additional gore shots, some additional dismemberment, amputations, fight sequences. So it's not an alternate scene. It's not a deleted scene that's been added in per se. It's still the House of Blue Leaves fight scene. There's just some additional shots and scenes thrown into that whole fight scene, which adds a lot to the scene. There's also a little comical scene that shows up later on at the end of the fight scene. And then, of course, the movie, Sophie is taken by the bride, and she's asking for information on the Deadly Vipers. And the movie, Volume 1 ends with us finding out from Bill when he asks Sophie, is she aware that her daughter is still alive? In this particular edit of the movie, The Whole Bloody Affair, we don't get that information. The movie ends before the intermission just with Bill finding out that Sophie had given up information about the Deadly Vipers to Beatrix, to the bride, and that the bride wants him to know. What we do get here is at the beginning of the House of Blue Leaves scene, before the bride fights the Crazy 88, she cuts off one of Sophie's arms. Well, what we find out in The Whole Bloody Affair, and what isn't really confirmed in a scene where the bride drops Sophie off at the hospital, is the bride ends up taking her other arm because she's hesitant with some information. So we have an additional amputation at this point. With the second half of the movie that we came back with after the intermission, I didn't see or I didn't notice any additional scenes or dialogue. What I did notice, having watched this from start to finish, I have more of an appreciation for Volume 2, or what would have been Volume 2. Watching the movie as a whole, which I had not done in its entirety, I cannot look at Volume... I cannot look at Kill Bill as two separate movies. I know Tarantino had always said that this was his vision, that he filmed this as one movie. He considers this one movie. But in the past, when I went to go watch Kill Bill, I typically would only watch Volume 1. That is my favorite of the two. However, I can no longer now look at Kill Bill as two separate movies. It is one complete story narrative for me now. And of course, at the end of the credits, we have the Fortnite collaboration, which I would have loved to have seen this actually played out. I'm not a Fortnite fan. I've never played Fortnite. So the animation kind of got to me a little bit. There's some things that took place that I'm sure you have to be familiar with Fortnite or a Fortnite fan to completely understand. But it was an interesting story. I would have liked to have seen it more in traditional anime or animated style, like the Orenishi origin story. Or just without all the Fortnite stuff in it. But having said that, it was interesting. It was fun to watch. Uma Thurman did return to voice the bride. However, the voice of Gogo did not return. It was a different actress, I believe. But all in all, if you get a chance to check out The Whole Bloody Affair, I definitely would recommend it, and I would recommend seeing it at the theater. Having said that, prior to going to see this, I actually had picked up a fan edit. It's considered a fan edit, homebrew, whatever you would consider it. I do have a copy of The Whole Bloody Affair on Blu-ray. Now, this particular release does not obviously have the additional animated sequence in Oren's origin story, and of course doesn't have the Fortnite collaboration at the end. However, just like with what was just at the theater, I do believe Tarantino's release from 2006, The Whole Bloody Affair, I do believe that this is as close to that as you can get available. There has not been an official U.S. release of this. That is one of the reasons why I picked this up. And honestly, if they release a 4K or a Blu-ray release of what's in the theaters now, more than likely I will pick that up. Like I said, the only reason I grabbed this is because I did not have this. This was not available, so that's why I grabbed this. Comparing this to what's in theaters right now, it's basically the exact same thing. House of Blue Leaves, fight scene is in color. The extended gore shots are there. The Sophie Feitel additional amputation is there. As I said, the additional Oren backstory animated. The 7.5 extended scene with Pretty Ricky is not there, but the additional gore and dialogue that I mentioned is. But what you will get, what I have in this edition here that is not and was not in the theatrical release that I just saw, there is a deleted scene with Michael Jai White, ultimate badass, where he is a character. He is an unnamed guy, and he confronts Bill seemingly while the bride has just become acquainted with him, but seemingly before she is taken to Pai Mei. So in this edition, that scene is inserted back into the movie. However, where it's inserted is when the bride is going to look for Bill, and it's right before she meets with Esteban Vallejo. It doesn't really sit well with where it's inserted in the movie, in my opinion. I don't know if that's where it originally was situated or not. It seems like it would be better inserted before Bill drops Beatrix off with Pai Mei, but nobody asked me. That's just my opinion. That's Steve's opinion. But this scene is only about 3 minutes long. It doesn't add to or take away from the movie. It's just the only fight scene we actually get with Bill. The fight with him and the bride at the end of The Whole Bloody Affair or the end of Volume 2 isn't really a fight scene. I mean, it is, but it isn't. But in this particular scene with Michael Jai White, Michael Jai White's character confronts Bill because Bill killed his master Daimo, and Bill quickly dispatches all of Michael Jai White's students, accomplices, whatever you would call them. And then there's a pretty cool fight scene, sword to sword. They match swords. Then they go hand to hand, and then they go sheath swords. And Bill ultimately dispatches Michael Jai White, of course, because he's Bill. But it's neat to have that scene reinserted into my copy of The Whole Bloody Affair. So I basically have The Whole Bloody Affair on this Blu-ray, minus the additional extended scene with Pretty Ricky and minus the Fortnite collaboration. So if we don't get a physical media release, I'm not going to be disappointed. If we do get one, it's probably going to have some cool extras, maybe some behind the scenes, stuff like that. So I will probably pick it up, hopefully, if it's on 4K. So did you guys check out Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair? Have you seen it before? Did you go see it this past weekend? Are you planning to pick it up if it gets released? So let me know what your thoughts are. Give me a like, give me a share, give me a follow, give me a subscribe. And what are your thoughts on Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair? Keep an eye out. I'm going to be posting a video hopefully this week on my rankings of Quentin Tarantino's movies. I'm going to do my rankings of his 9 films. And so keep an eye out for that video. I hope everybody's having a great week. Take care. Looks like it's going to be a cold one. Getting cold in the next couple of days. We got some snow coming up north of Fayetteville. So you guys stay warm, take care, and we'll see you next time.